Good morning, Tuesday Tea and Herbal Medicine Talk. I am Dr. Rachel Stricker. Welcome to Illuminate with Dr. Rachel. So Tuesday Tea is part of our Masterful May 30 Days to Self-Mastery. And every Tuesday we have been doing a little tea time and talking of these herbal helpers through the container of tea. So today we're going to be talking about nutritive herbs and are really for nourishing the body. And so these particular herbs are really high in their vitamin and mineral content. So consuming them, nutrients in, these extra minerals and vitamins in. And we're going to break it down and talk about each one of these herbs individually. So I love nutritive herbs. They're really supportive and wonderful. The first time I came up with a nutritive tea blend, I was actually going to Burning Man for the first time, and I was going with a whole bunch of my other naturopathic students. And I wanted to bring something to gift, as Burning Man has this gifting culture. And my idea was these nutritive herbs will really be great for people because they're going to be out in the desert, they're going to be having late nights and doing things that is easy to burn out the adrenals. And so having these nutritive herbs are really wonderful and supportive, and we'll talk about each one of them individually again. So the herbs that we're going to discuss today are nettles, red clover, oatstraw, horsetail, and alfalfa. So let's go ahead and jump right into it and talk about nettles. So I have to say that Nettles is truly one of a couple of years because I've really used it successfully with helping people with allergies. So I live in the Willamette Valley in Oregon, and this area is really known to be a high allergen area for many different reasons. One of the reasons is that the county that is just north. So Nettles has been a go-to over the past couple of years to really help patients with allergies, and drinking Nettles as a tea on a daily basis before things really start to bloom, and then continuing to do it through allergy season has proven to be incredibly effective because it does seem to settle down the levels of histamine in people's bodies. And so histamine, of course, is those allergic symptoms that we experience. And nettles is a really interesting plant. You can actually, there's a lot of different areas that you can wildcraft nettles, that it grows, and this is one of the regions where it does. Nettles, interestingly, this is stinging nettles is the other name for it, right? And it's because if you touch these plants, you're going to get a rash, and it's going to be really irritating to your skin. And so nettles is known to be really irritating to both the skin. Raw nettles, it would burn your throat, it would burn your intestines. But consuming this plant in its dry form is perfectly fine and safe and have that irritation. So it's an interesting thing, and it makes sense that something that would cause this type of irritation is going to help it when you consume it in other ways. It's almost like our whole cures like. So that's one of the great things about nettles too. Our whole cures like. So that's one of the great things about nettles too. And nettles is also something that will often be used in pregnancy, maybe along with red raspberry leaf, for helping women through pregnancy to not only nourish them, of course, but to also prepare them for having a healthy pregnancy and a healthy labor. Now, interestingly, which means that it has a reaction on the uterus. So you do have to use some caution with that, and not consume nettles in high volume when you're pregnant, but certainly having it later on in pregnancy or having. So some of the uh, of vitamins and minerals that we find in high value is potassium, calcium, magnesium, great as a spring tonic for allergens and for just overall nourishing the body. So Nettles is a lovely one. It can be consumed just by itself, or it works really well. Other than being this nutritive herb, it's really high in its mineral content, and it also is known as a nervous system tropo-restorative, which means that it's kind of this it has this gentle restorative nature, especially with an affinity for the nervous system. So Oatstraw is something that can be used in depression and anxiety and sleep issues, and it's not something that you're going to be able to take and like instantaneously feel relaxed from, but this is something that you would consume on a daily basis over a period of time to be really, because it has that nervous system tropo-restorative. It also can have a really nice affinity for helping people who are trying to overcome different types of addiction. So it can be helpful for people who are weaning off prescription medications, especially ones that are maybe for anxiety and depression, for people who are trying to get off caffeine and coffee or nicotine, and also, for illicit drugs as well, that it can be really incredible and very restorative in nature for that purpose. It is high in iron, manganese, zinc, calcium, and magnesium, and again, really calcium and magnesium, and again, really gentle, also helpful for bone health, for mental exhaustion, emotional traumas, chronic fatigue, and for chronic stress. And again, not those instantaneous effects, because it doesn't work that way, but these kind of slow effects that are really helpful. Oatstraw, as well as nettles that I just mentioned, and really all of these herbs, other than being nutritive herbs, they're also alterative herbs. And this class of herbs is also for cleansing and restoring in the body. And so, it works to detoxify a little bit better. Some of them work for helping the kidneys to detoxify a little bit better. So I've talked before in videos about having these, making sure that all of the emunctories where we detoxify from are working properly. And so that's our gastrointestinal tract, so making sure that we're excreting and detoxifying through the stool, that we're doing so through the urine, that we're doing so through the skin and through sweating, and that we are doing so through the lungs and respiring as well. So those are kind of our main detoxification systems, and we want to make sure that those are working properly. And so these alterative herbs can do that as well. Next, we'll talk about red clover. So red clover is rich in calcium, magnesium, niacin, phosphorus, potassium, particularly B vitamins, but particularly B1, vitamin C, and zinc. And it has a nice affinity for the lungs, the throat, the salivary glands, and red clover actually also has some research showing that it can be helpful for cancer care, so for both preventing and treating cancer, particularly prostate and endometrial cancers. So there's actually some good research showing that with red clover. Red clover is a phytoestrogen. And so this means that it's something that can be useful for menopause to help balance the hormones. And so this is a great thing. This is a great herb to have in menopause. Also a great herb for helping with prevention or treatment of osteoporosis, as all of these herbs really are for preventing and treating osteoporosis, because they're so rich in their mineral content that they really help with that bone building. And because of the richness of the mineral content of these herbs, it also is something that's helpful for the health of your hair, skin, and nails, that all need those mineral contents to be helpful. So red clover is included in this nutritive formula for all of those reasons. Now we have horsetail. So horsetail is very good for the hair, skin, and nails, as I mentioned, and also for that bone health. So has lots of silica, potassium, manganese, flavonoids, Horsetail is also really important for the urinary tract. And so horsetail, as well as a couple of these other herbs, can be a diuretic. So you have to use some caution with using them because it can cause you to urinate more frequently. And if you're urinating more frequently, you also, can be losing some of those vital electrolytes. But these herbs also have a tendency to kind of balance everything out. So it's not a big concern, but certainly a precaution that you would want to keep an eye on, especially if you have any issues with urination or with with the kidneys as well. But horsetail is really great. Horsetail is one of those herbs that, we use it a little bit more acutely and not necessarily good for long-term use. With the horsetail in this formula, it's not at really high amounts. You're not drinking just straight horsetail. This is a combination of things. So it would be fine to have this, either occasionally or have it, on a daily basis for a period of time because it's not in really high volumes. And in a long-term use is usually, when you're using it for more than 2 months time, is kind of what we would go into that kind of long-term chronic use. So it's something where you could drink this tea for a while and then take a little break. And especially if you weren't finding that it was having a big diuretic effect on you, that it wouldn't be something of great concern either. Lastly, we have our alfalfa. So another nutritive really high in those vitamins and mineral contents. Alfalfa in particular has carotene, has calcium, lots of trace minerals, vitamin E, vitamin K, and also has those isoflavones similar to what red clover has. So it can be great again for balancing the menopause symptoms and for preventing the osteoporosis or helping with osteoporosis. So there's 2 different types. Osteopenia is kind of like almost like pre-osteoporosis. We find out osteopenia by doing things like a DEXA scan that looks at the bone density. And so osteopenia is kind of that, those lower levels of bone density loss, where osteoporosis puts you into those higher bone density losses. But drinking a tea like this that's rich in that mineral content is going to be helpful for the bone building and also for balancing the hormones. So a lot of what happens in osteoporosis is also happening because there's such an estrogen loss when women go through menopause. So this formula is also helping to balance those estrogens as well as replacing those trace minerals to help with the bone building. So it's really great for that purpose. Alfalfa is an herb that also is used in lactation. And so alfalfa isn't to be used in pregnancy, and this formula wouldn't be a great formula for women in pregnancy because there's a couple of herbs that are contraindicated for in pregnancy. But alfalfa is used in a lot of lactation formulas because it does help with increasing milk supply, and it also really nourishes the milk too because it is so high in the mineral contents as well. Alfalfa is also really helpful for balancing the hormones, again, for the hair, skin, and nails, and also has an affinity for the cardiovascular system, can be helpful for balancing cholesterol levels, and is great for all of that too. So I've already mentioned a couple of contraindications with each one of these. So the clover is also contraindicated in pregnancy. So again, this formula in general isn't good for pregnancy. You would also have to use some caution with blood thinners. So if you're on blood thinners, these herbs would not necessarily be good for you either. Particularly the clover and the alfalfa are contraindicated when using blood thinners. And there has been some research that has been shown, and this was more animal studies, animals who were given alfalfa to graze on or part of their diet were found to have some issues with fertility. So it's kind of one of those things that, if you have if you're having issues with fertility, consuming a lot of alfalfa, might not be a good thing, but it's not going to necessarily cause infertility for someone either, especially at these lower volumes in tea. The animals that were eating alfalfa were probably eating very high volumes of the alfalfa, and maybe we're having some issues with that. And because it has the effect of on the hormones. And so in general, alfalfa is going to be helpful for balancing the hormones, but again, one of those those precautions just to be aware of as well. So I love these nutritive herbs, cleansing for the body, helping to balance the hormones, helping to balance the vitamin and mineral intake, and a great way to consume it as a tea. So I hope you enjoyed this talk today. Feel free to ask any questions, check these herbs out, look into them a little bit more. This is a blend that I'm going to have available soon on my Etsy store as well. So my Etsy store is Illumination Wellness, and all of these tea blends that I've been talking about in Tuesday Tea will be available hopefully by the end of the week. I'm waiting for a shipment of herbs to come in. We'll blend those herbs up into these tea blends, and then they'll be available for you through the Etsy store. So enjoy your tea. This is a really wonderful, it has a natural sweetness to it, a little bit of that herby flavor, but really a mild tasting tea that's quite delicious to drink, even on a daily basis or for a period of time when you want to really nourish the body and bring in those extra trace minerals. Okay, bye.